Hi, folks. This is Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D., for the Institute for Dialectical Meta-Realism. I have made another change, and that is what this episode will be about. What I did call socialism from below, third worldism, indigenism, I am now going to call socialism from below, third worldism, fourth worldism. Now, does it make any difference? No, it makes no difference at all. Why? Because fourth worldism and indigenism are synonymous. Yes, they are. But I thought that for the sake of consistency, calling it fourth worldism rather than indigenism, at least in the name of the tendency, makes more sense. Indigenism is a nice word. It has a really good ring to it, at least to me, but I'm still using it. So if you go down and scroll down the discussion section until you get to Eudaimonic Utopia, and you click on that link, it will take you to a book by that name that I'm in the process of writing. And you can still find numerous usages of the term indigenism in that book. So I have not thrown the book out. And that is how I justified making the change. I said, well, I'll put fourth worldism in the name, but I will still keep on using the term indigenism a lot. Again, because I like it. I like it. Do I like fourth worldism? Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Do I like it as much as indigenism? To be honest, no. But it sounds better with third worldism. It fits better. It's neater, I guess you could say. So I reluctantly made that change. I don't know why I think about these things so much. A small petty thing like this, I spent hours debating it over in my head. Do you want to change it from indigenism to fourth worldism? Or do you want to keep it as indigenism? Who cares except for me? Nobody cares. Nobody cares at all. It doesn't matter because the two terms mean the same thing. So I changed it basically because I think it looks nicer. Um, Third worldism fits with fourth worldism because they both have worldism in them. Indigenism does not have worldism in it. So I have not thrown it out, though. Again, I have not thrown it out. I'm still using it. I'm still using the term indigeneity, which I like even more than indigenism. But in terms of the title of the tendency, yeah, socialism from below, third worldism, fourth worldism, reluctantly makes more sense. And so that will be, at least for now, the title of the tendency. I change my mind so much when it comes to names. Now, I am not a nominalist, meaning I do not believe that reality is in names, or a conceptualist even. I am a critical realist, but I still like names. I like names a lot. I like calling things by something. When I was 11, I started my own religion called soulology, the scientific religion of the soul. And I thought I had invented the term until I got older. And not only did I find out that many other people had come up with their own soulologies, but a guy I was friends with, sort of, we became unfriendly for a long time, then became sort of friends again, kind of sort of reconciled in a way. He also had his own soulology. I found that very disappointing because I like my terms to be original. Now, of course, when I'm talking about socialism from below, third worldism, indigenism, or socialism from below, third worldism, fourth worldism. Ultimately, I am talking about Maoism, third worldism. So it doesn't matter. It's just the fact that I like having my own words to describe things. I have done a lot of study, as I always do, on Maoism, third worldism, and I found that a lot of Maoist third worldists are also indigenists and incorporate indigenism into their work. Now, in some contexts, third worldists and fourth worldists, or indigenists, have actually had conflict with one another. Now, I understand why, but it still makes no sense to me, because basically what they're saying is, well, do we call this part of the world the third world or the fourth world? And my own response to that is, well, why not call it either or both? Whatever fits, whatever makes sense. So, yeah, I mean, to me, the debate between third worldists and fourth worldists over which one makes sense. Is there a third world, or is there a fourth world? My answer to that is yes. Simply yes. They're both. And some places are both. For example, Mexico. Mexico, as Mexico is seen by some Mexicans and Mexican Americans, is both an indigenous land. And so Mexico is regarded as being indigenous. And so all Mexicans, no matter how they look, are seen as being indigenous because they have at least some indigenous ancestry. That is the view of many Mexicans and even Mexican Americans. They regard themselves as indigenous, and therefore the term fourth worldism would apply to them. But would the term third worldism apply to them too? Indeed, yes, because they are a part of the developing world. I mean, I live just 2 miles north of Mexico, as I have said ad nauseum in this podcast. And when I go down there, I can see why it is the third world, why it is that people suffer so much, why there's so much poverty there compared to here in the Rio Grande Valley on the U.S. side. So there is a U.S. Rio Grande Valley and a Mexican Rio Grande Valley. Both are poor, but by different standards. The U.S. Rio Grande Valley is poor using the concept of relative poverty, meaning it is poorer than most other parts of the United States. But in much of Mexico, the Rio Grande Valley of Mexico is actually an example of absolute poverty, meaning that there are some people who live in the Rio Grande Valley of Mexico who literally cannot afford to have an adequate diet. That is different than what exists on the US side. So, yeah, makes sense. Call Mexico third world or fourth world, or if you prefer, third world or indigenous. Either term fits. It doesn't matter because indigenous and third world refer, or I'm sorry, indigenous or fourth world. Why did I say third world? Indigenous or fourth world refer to the same thing. Yes, the same thing. So I just wanted to point that out. I'm not sure exactly why. This may be the most useless episode in my podcast I have ever made. And if it is, I am sorry. But for some reason, whenever I name something in a different way, I feel a compulsion to tell the world. Not necessarily all the time, but many times I do. And so now with this podcast, which I have in the last several months reinvigorated, brought back to life, which means reinvigorated, I now have the ability, or at least the option, of being able to tell people about my silly name changes on the internet so that everyone, at least potentially, can have the opportunity of knowing about them. Now, why somebody would want to know about them other than me, I have no idea. In fact, the idea that you are even listening to me talking right now makes no sense to me. I don't understand it. Why in the world are you listening to me talk about this? It is totally ridiculous. And so I would advise you to turn this podcast off, but fortunately, there is a solution. I will end it for you. For the time being, this has been Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D., for the Institute for Dialectical Meta-Realism. Have a pleasant day and an even better day tomorrow.